Okay, I welcome you back to the second part of the day. I hope you got re-energized with some of our interesting drinks we have outside there and ready to actively participate in the second part of our program. And what we're going to do now, we have an open panel discussion, and we'll have a great panel to put together. We have already two people sitting down, John Collins, Andreas Simonides, because those two already told you a lot about what they are doing, so they have a small break for now. And then I will invite the other participants one-on-one and have a small chat with them. They are joining the panel, and then afterwards we will open it up for the audience for your questions. And I think I'm looking forward to a very active panel discussion. Okay, would like to welcome Markus Bockelmann, CFO of E.ON. Markus, please. So Markus, after hearing the discussion from this morning, so how is E.ON coping with this challenging times ahead in this transition period?
Well, if I may start with a slight correction, I'm not CFO of E.ON. This is too much of honor. I'm CFO of E.ON Benelux, so I'm responsible for the finances in this region, where even the name Benelux is going a bit too far. In fact, it's Belgium and the Netherlands. But Benelux just sounds better. Well, actually, for E.ON as a whole, so E.ON is, for the ones who don't know, one of the dominating energy groups in Europe. There are a couple of consequences. First, since years, E.ON is investing heavily in renewable power. So in a very short time, in a term of 5-6 years, E.ON started in wind power, for instance, from more or less zero to a market position today, being one of the leading and largest wind power producers worldwide, but not focusing on Europe only, but actually, as I said, worldwide. So it's renewable power, of course, that's on the agenda, biomass, solar panels as well, investigating what technology is there, what business cases will there be. It's about costs and structures and organizations, but we see that policymakers, so politics, regulators, more and more intervene with a very short warning period up front into the market, so changing the rules of the games more or less regularly. A very, very prominent example is the German Energiewende. In fact, the German ambassador said it already, it's a continuation of the German decision to step out of nuclear power. But what happened right after Fukushima was that Angela Merkel, the German Bundeskanzlerin, the Chancellor, decided to take immediate steps. And that has, of course, not only for E.ON, but also for the other competitors in Germany, but even in other countries, drastic effects. Well, I could talk for hours, maybe you noticed that, but maybe I should hand over the mic now.
But how do you see the role of the future customer? So we talked quite a bit about maybe you take this mic, that would be actually better. Yeah, thank you. Good idea. Is it on?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. So how do you see, how is E.ON handling the challenges of the prosumer, so the future customer who can not just consume, but also produce? So it's like kind of the web where we had Web 1.0, now we have Web 2.0, so we have Energy 2.0 now, and out of a sudden we have people who also produce. And now, as Andreas pointed out, if you have many of them, out of a sudden they have quite some power, literally. And how is E.ON, as a large energy provider, reacting to that change and facilitating that change?
Well, in fact, the prosumer is already there. It's a matter of business case for the customers to step into it. So most of the customers are still consumers, of course. However, the fact that there is a decentral generation changes the rules of the game substantially. So far, and since 100 years, since electrification, we have learned that electricity comes from a large-scale power plant, is transported through a grid, and the customer just takes it off and consumes it whenever he likes, partly. So a very unidirectional picture. it has tremendous impact on the whole organization, on IT systems and processes, on invoices, on this and that, not only on technology, that now comes the prosumer, that suddenly the people who took off power since 100 years actually feed something back. This is a challenge organizationally for anybody participating in the market. So however, today there is still this hinder of a business case. In Germany, that's different. Germany took that approach to subsidize heavily these new technologies, which is certainly a good measure to get things started. But currently, Germany notices that this comes with costs for society, for the taxpayer or the customer. The Netherlands have chosen another approach, so that slows things down a little. On the other hand, it's a matter of time. So there is a wave coming. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Markus. As next panelist, I would like to give a warm welcome from Eric van der Heijden, Smart Energy Director of Siemens. Eric, also a very similar question now. How is Siemens to cope with the transition we are currently in?
Okay, let me also start with a small correction that I'm also a director of smart grids for Siemens in the Netherlands.
Okay.
Also Siemens, big German company that's active worldwide in a lot of countries, in a lot of similar projects and collectives. It's almost too big to all see what's going on around it. But it's also what makes it makes it challenging, looking around in the world, what's happening, and together, let's say, shaping the future. That's also part of my answer why Siemens is present here today, and why we also decided to take part in your advisory board. We are a big company focused on infrastructure, and then specifically one where like an electronic component is going through. It's in the whole energy chain. We do large-scale power plants, where also E.ON, for instance, is a customer from us, down to energy transmission, distribution. So that's only on the field of energy. Remembering what the deputy mayor said this morning, they also focus on mobility, where also Siemens has a certain portfolio where we can do trams, trains. In the city of London, we were involved in a project where we were reducing CO2 with tolling, traffic congestion charging. So it's almost too big. Carbon capture and storage was also mentioned. That's also something where we have solutions in. So knowing all that, we also feel the responsibility that with this huge portfolio, that we also not only should be just the one who just makes products and deliver it when the customers ask for it, but also more proactive together with the customers and stakeholders, shape the future. Just for our position, that's the ambition we want to be in, to position ourselves, but there's also, I think, a need. Because if you now, and that's something where we're going to talk about later, I think, looking at this energy transition and this smart grid, we also are doing R&D, are developing products, but nobody really knows where it's going to. We feel we play a huge role in that, but we also have to learn from the stakeholders, from the customers, where it's going to, what the need is, and also what Mark indicated. This is different per country. So it's also really an interaction also to have the discussion with everybody.
I think it's also probably very, very interesting what we mentioned on the conversation we just had a few minutes ago with Bauke from Essen, that there are so many different stakeholders involved, right? And who is orchestrating that network and who is making these different investments? I think once we have complete the panel, I think I'm looking forward to this kind of discussion, because it's not just one company alone who is doing this transition or one university. It's really many stakeholders working together in a big, large, intelligent network, and how to coordinate these networks becomes a major challenge.
And what's also, sorry to make one more remark, and then we can move on. What struck me also in the discussion this morning, first we had the Deputy Mayor. He was talking about energy transition, smart grid, focusing really on the consumer or the prosumer. So let's say on the micro level, even seeing one household as a simple micro environment. And then the German ambassador came talking about the same energy transition, but talking about the total energy grid in Europe and Germany. So that's really on a micro scale. So we're talking about the same thing, but in completely different worlds. And sometimes we really are talking different languages when we are talking about smart grids and energy transition. So that's also the need where to focus and where to start.
Right. Thank you so much, Eric. This morning at 5:30 in the morning, I got a message from Jan-Philipp Gilman. He's a chief economist of Commerzbank, Germany, that he is sadly feeling very ill and he had to cancel his flight. So he gives his regards, wishes the best for the forum, and looking forward to participate next year. But sadly, he had to cancel his flight. He was feeling very ill. So I wish him the best and that he recovers quickly. Also, Alexander van Hoefelen just got to know this morning that she had to leave early, but I think we had an inspiring talk by her. And now I welcome to the panel Peter van Essen from the Port of Rotterdam. Welcome, Peter. So, Peter, now we are very close to the World Port Center here, just a few meters more or less from your workplace and at the heart of the harbor. So maybe now a very different stakeholder here on the panel. How are you seeing the transition and what's going on at the moment?
Maybe, but that is not very much to the topic itself. But the transition is seen in this port already, the Rijnhaven, where we are located. If you look at pictures of the Rijnhaven 100 years ago, then you see a massive fleet of seagoing vessels and barges bringing coal from Germany out to destinations out of Europe, and from the UK back to the Netherlands. This was really an energy port. Now the energy port is relocated around, say 40 kilometers from here, very much, say, to the Maasvlakte, and where, among others, Aeon is built. Maybe for the very short, I think that port is very much associated with containers or with bulk in general. And around 12 years ago, we had the idea that it should being stressed that Rotterdam is also an energy port, already because of its crude oil and its oil refineries, but energy power distribution and power generation and distribution will become more and more of importance. And then, of course, we are a playground for big companies and for big mega structures. It's also, if Alexander van Huffelen speaks about, say, microsystems, in the port we have macro systems. That is, and of course we want to stimulate also microsystems for solar power and also on wind power. But even in those cases, you speak about hundreds of megawatts. Not on a very micro. But it is maybe two things, because also something was mentioned this morning in the Financieel Dagblad about, there was a study about what is the importance of the gas roundabout meaning for the Netherlands. And we have also next to it, we are also a kind of electric roundabout with the BritNet power connector, connecting the Dutch grid with the UK grid. We have some grid connections, of course, with Germany. We have grid connections with Belgium. And if you look at it, then Rotterdam area is very much in the midst of all those connections. And the same is also applies to the gas hub, also with the LNG terminal, the liquefied natural gas import terminal, and with the big coal-fired and gas-fired power plants built, among others, by Siemens here. We try to stimulate that because it is important for our customers to have access to enough electricity at very competitive prices. And that is ours. But next to it, where possible, we want to stimulate renewable power. To give you just one example, at the end of this month, and I told already, Marcus, we have a demonstration facility of kite power. That is wind power with a kite, with a kite flyer with an altitude of around 1,000 meters, and will have its first being demonstrated, developed by a German engineer at the TU Delft with a small team of 7 people, and that is a fascinating new development, much cheaper than the traditional windmill, to say, but it is something that we want to stimulate also. And certainly it will not be applied here, because with all the air traffic and the helicopter flights, so, but anyhow, we want to stimulate it, and we see that as a new type of development. So that is also kind of micro system.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Peter. That some exciting developments going on. Looking forward to get know more about this one.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, Bauke Oostenbrück from Essen. Welcome. So, Bauke, again, the first question very similar, but just because we have different representatives of companies. So, what are you doing at Essen to facilitate this transition, and how do you see the role of the future customer?
Yes, well, within a sense, we certainly see that we are an important stakeholder in this whole energy transition, and we take our responsibility to make the energy supply available, affordable, reliable. It's also very important, but also very sustainable. And what we do within a sense, there are some three main topics on innovation for this sustainable energy future. The first topic is the bio-based economy. Alexandra already referred to that also the Port of Rotterdam is an important stakeholder in that. So in the bio-based economy, we are looking for ways to get most of value out of biomass and work together with several kind of industries. And then when you get all this value extracted from the biomass, then at the end of the whole value chain, you use it for energy production. And we have, for instance, a lot of experience in our Amer power plants where we use biomass to produce green electricity. But we also use biomass to produce green gas. So that's is one of our main themes. And that's also a decentralized production of green energy. Another main theme is e-mobility. Together with RWE, Ascent is part of RWE company. We have, for instance, and sorry to say Rotterdam, we have in Amsterdam won the tender to implement all the infrastructure and also to supply the services together with Nuon. So we have a deal with that for Amsterdam. So we are placing a charging infrastructure. So that's the only way to get things started in e-mobility is also to deliver the infrastructure and to supply the services for the e-mobility drivers. So that's also an important part, e-mobility, we think, in the whole smart energy and smart grid business, because users of e-mobility that will affect mainly also the consumption of electricity, also in more the decentralized use of electricity. So energy management is our third main theme that we are working on. So that's mainly about smart grids. And we have, for instance, pilot projects where we do real life with some kind of live labs. Power Matching City in the province of Groningen in the up north. That's where we have about 20 households in a smart grid simulation. And we test and pilot all this stuff real life. And we are also part of the Smart Energy Collective, where we're going to do the same on a larger scale in Heer Hugowaard. So that's what we are doing.
So that you mentioned the pilot projects. How do you, for example, envision how universities can help and contribute to these pilot projects? What do you see?
Yeah, we work already with universities together in these pilot projects. For instance, on the part of how do you influence consumer behavior? How does a customer also becomes a smart customer and playing an active role in the smart grids? We work together with universities and do studies on that. So that's how we see this whole. We cooperate with all kind of stakeholders and knowledge institutes, etc., to work together to achieve the new world.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. There's a little bit more space over there, I think. So there's some space. Okay, there's a musical chair. No, there's one. I have to take one away, and it's very active. So thank you all for your initial statements. We talked a little bit about that there are many, many different stakeholders being involved in this whole transition period. How do you see the orchestration of this network? What can be done to facilitate this transition, and how can we facilitate the orchestration? And who should be, if at all, should there be a network orchestra, or should there be a decentralized organization system? How do you envision this? Maybe start with Siemens, because you're doing all this technology infrastructure, right? So maybe.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question.
Do you have
Because what you see is when people start to think about transitions, people a lot of times start to think first about technology. What is technology possible? And that's also when you're a company with a big name, a lot of people come running towards you. And they think, well, okay, I want to do something sustainable, so I need a smart grid. I've heard that a lot of times when people think, if I invest in a smart grid, everything will be sustainable and I will start reducing CO2. Now, that's of course not true. One of the statements I can make is smart grid is not a goal on itself, but it's a means. It's a means to make a sustainable future possible. So first, before thinking about what technique do I need, people need to talk about what do I mean with a smart grid. A lot of people would think with a smart grid it's about balancing or peak shaving, but it can also be about increasing efficiency. Or maybe more important, at the moment we still invest in our network to cope with the peaks. So we simply put so much copper into the ground that we can cope with every peak. But if you now see what peaks are to be expected in the future when electromobility gets a boom, we have to invest like billions and billions. So this is also not sustainable. So also there we need to go to another vision. But again there, before you can talk about the technique, you first need to make clear what you mean. And then I can refer back to a statement that also the Deputy Mayor made this morning. She said, well, technical, that's not a problem. And yeah, I cannot agree more. There is a lot of solutions, products are available. Still, a lot of is not available yet. But I have a lot of doubt that if we need what to design, what to engineer, we can make it work. But the problem is still, okay, what is the right economy of scale to also make it feasible? For instance, come to this, let's say, a smart grid system. You can make a lot of cases when you can see what's about comfort. You can do peak shaving, and you can do a lot of intelligence that you can make your grid with is more efficient, has more comfort to the consumer, but in the end, it simply doesn't pay off. So what people do, they still put more copper into the ground because that's simply the easiest. So for us, as people come to us, okay, well, we need the technical solution, which we feel obliged to design, but also, okay, yes, we can have technical solutions, but exactly for what? And then more important, who is then going to pay for it? And that's at the moment a bit of a problem, because if you design a network that's more reliable or reduce cost, we can all calculate that in the end for society, this is going to save cost. And of course, in the next 20, 30 years, that's where we are going. But who is going to make the first investment?
Yeah.
Where to start? Where are the low-hanging fruits where we have business cases?
So maybe... oh yeah, sure. Why not?
I think ladies first.
And then Marcus Bockerman.
I cannot agree more on the statement you're taking that the technology will not be the problem, but the problem will be that their consumers have to step in and they have to start things. We, for instance, see that in the smaller B2B business, there are business cases. Essent has a concept powerhouse, where you see that agriculture, the horticulture in the Netherlands, that's part of their business case. And they're real entrepreneurial people. And a part of their business case is that they do, they themselves trade in their energy consumption. And they decide sometimes to put down their heating because it earns more money to deliver it back to the system. And that's what we find. You should start with this demand response. You should start with smart grids on the places where the money is, so where there's the biggest benefit. And when there are entrepreneurs who are already doing pilots and tests with us to do that. So that would be my statement.
Okay, thank you, Pauke.
If I may bring in a new facet, I do not think that our issue is the investments on the side of a retail customer. I think that money will be there. It's a matter, you need a roof, you need the physical preconditions, and you need a business case. Technology will be there. For instance, I heard that the Chinese government has introduced a target in the current 5-year plan. You know, they have these 5-year plans. One of the targets is that the Chinese industry will produce solar panels in 5 years at 20% of the costs of today. 20%. And we all can imagine that in 5 years the technological development has not come to an end yet. So in a very short time frame, each one of us having a roof available will take a wrong decision if he or she does not put solar panels on the roof. So I think that will be there. So the business case must be there. It must be transparent to the customer. And then the customer will pay, or the banks or energy suppliers, they will provide a kind of financing solution. I think that's not the issue. I think what is problematic is the cost for the grid and for the backup power. The more customers turn into net producers, producing more than they actually consume, or even make themselves fully independent and maybe even disconnect from the grid, the less utilization will be in the grid. The less people will actually pay for it. By the way, the state will also earn less energy tax and all this. So how do you finance a grid that is hardly used? Well, hardly, that's a bit too extreme, I admit. But that is, as a backup, that needs to be rebuilt, that needs a lot of investments, but less and less consumption will be transported over it. I think that's a challenge for policymakers, for regulators. Right. And for backup power, it's just the same. We see that already in Germany. In Belgium, it's an extreme situation already. I think it's not a Dutch issue, but in many countries in Europe, that will be a question. Who the heck pays for the backup power?
Yeah, please, Peter.
Yeah, and I think the problem is even more aggravated, because often it is cited that solar power will have grid parity with, say, fossil power. But if you pay, say, 22 cents per kilowatt hour for your electricity, that's the cost price for solar power. Then is the cost price for fossil power is maybe 7 or 8 cents, and the difference is made up with duties and excesses and special value-added tax, etc. So if you all are turning into solar power, the government also misses that extra revenue. So there's the revenue that you are missed for the power grid, but there's also the revenue for the government. So and if you levy also that all those taxes on solar power, then we don't speak of grid parity anymore. So I think where the Dutch government very much relies on all those extra tax revenues, I really wonder how the government will solve that problem in the future.
So very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can
please
remark on that, because these are actually very, very good examples, and this is also what's very true. To give more an example on my question, okay, why do you need a smart grid? One of the reasons can also be because you have so much decentralized electricity already that you simply need it, because the normal grid cannot cope with it. You see good of examples that in the southern part of Germany, where there was a lot of like a subsidy boom to invest in solar panel, and everybody who drives with a car to Munich, they can remember, look around, you're like every barn and house has solar panels on its roof, and there you can actually see that on a sunny day that there is actually more electricity is actually fed back into the grid than all the way around than we used to. And how is it going there? It's just a cable, and it can go 2 ways. So if it's more produced, it simply goes that direction. But the grid is not designed for that. That's also so you see already there cables are starting to burn. All the protections are designed only because the grid also marked it. It's only unidirectional. So and now there's also one of the pilot projects. Also Siemens is involved in there. Also with a still also subsidy program to cope with that, because there you need a smart device to cope with this. But it's actually a good question now, because yes, you have grid parity because of the solar panels, but the demand we are putting into the grid is getting more and more, and that is also there. Who is going to stand up to be the customer or the owner of that problem?
No, that's absolutely true. Thank you so much for these remarks, because that's often where people do not think about, right? Because when all these tax revenues for the government, they're definitely a lesson on what to do, on how to maintain that grid. And well, that's a challenging question also for the policymakers. So we have thought a little bit about this side of the grid, where we have problems, and challenges ahead. But what do you see also for your companies, or obviously also from an academic point, but where do you see the opportunities also, which can the smart grid bring? Can you now become a technology leader? Can you create new jobs? Or what are you seeing for the opportunities for the future smart grid? So maybe Bauke? Oh, sorry.
Thanks. As opportunities, as I said, we see opportunities to develop smart services. You already see the first smart energy services like an e-thermostat, where people can have control over their heating from a distance with apps. And that's just a small first step in that direction. And we are developing a platform where people can have services, more apps. Also think of e-mobility built on services. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for a supplier of energy to get out of the commodity trap. That's what we are in, and to get more into this more value-added services based on the smart grid, and put the customer then in charge. Yeah.
Wonderful. Markus?
In fact, Bauke has spoken for Essent, but addressed the topics for the whole branch. I have not so much to add, I must say. The opportunity is to build up a new quality in the customer relation. I think that's it. Long-term relation, it will be much more complex than it has been. All companies, I cannot speak for Essent, but I assume it's for all companies in the branch seeking for where is actually the value and how to make it transparent to the customer, how to share it with the customer. The customer must be appealed by it, must be attracted to it. It must be a value for the energy supplier as well. So it will be much more complex, all these customer solutions, where it has been relatively simple in the past. You get your power, maybe your gas, and a customer magazine every 3 months that most people probably don't read. It will be much more complex, much more demanding. But on the other hand, much more interesting also for the customer itself, having transparency over the effects of his behavior. I think that's the huge value for the customer. That we will try to achieve together with the customer.
Looks like Peter and then John.
Yeah. Maybe it has not that much to do with smart grid, but we will get a very interesting example in the port. One of the neighbors of E.ON on the Maasvlakte will be APMT terminal, building a very new container terminal, as you might have heard of, and that is an all-electric terminal. So even not only, of course, the gantries, the gantry cranes, but also the AGVs, the automated guided vehicles, they will be all electric. So no diesel or diesel hybrid, nothing. A pure electric terminal. So they can get their power from E.ON. And E.ON, the neighbor will be glad to deliver the power, say, when they start at 7 o'clock in the morning, when the price is on a peak, E.ON says, okay, I'm very glad to deliver you all the power you need today. You can imagine that APMT terminal says, yeah, but we like to have the power at low price. So can we take the power, maybe in the midst of the night, and can we store it then somewhere? And then we take off the power from the battery at the time that we need it most. Now, that is something that is that we have to address that issue, because we like electric power terminals, because it is no emissions. It is a very clean air, but they should not be punished by peak prices. And now, how can we address it in a way that maybe we can have a role of it as a port also to stimulate, maybe together with the neighbor from Siemens, to stimulate battery systems that can level up, because E.ON will be glad to deliver power, because they can deliver more power than in a diesel case, but that at reasonable prices, of course. Now, that is something that I would...
John, thank you.
Yes, so back to the individual customers and small businesses, one of the promises of the smart grid, of course, is information. It's information about how much I'm using at the moment, what the price is, et cetera. Hopefully it's actionable information, but ultimately just giving information to people may not be enough to, for example, adapt usage to availability. And so the question is, what kinds of new automation, which might include integration of your electric vehicle into your home energy mix, it might include control of your water heater, your freezer, your heating system, et cetera, in ways, and even laundry, anything that uses significant power. We're accustomed to just going and pushing a switch, and the aggregate of everybody pushing switches and automated systems turning on and off with thermostats is what generates load curves. Changing the load curves by asking people to change their behavior is not going to accomplish very much. There's a whole new level of automation that needs to take this information and take people's real preferences. My preference is not to have the laundry done when I push the button, it's to have the laundry done when I need the clothing clean. But right now that doesn't exist. And so I think there's a whole range of opportunities that are just, glints in engineers' eyes right now that could really make a difference.
Sure. Andreas? Yeah, thank you, John.
Maybe I would like to come back to the initial comment and say that being from the side of intelligent systems, I see that there is not much smart information being given to the consumer at this point, right? So the fact that somebody can turn on and off the teleheating is something that is convenient, but it's something that is not smart. And if we would like to win this bet, we would have to somehow try to model consumers and model their activities and understand what exactly, try to personalize, in fact, the consumption patterns that they have based on the way that they behave. And this would mean a lot more software services that would provide these types of information, because finally we will come down with a very complex system that is on our mobile phone that we would like to, or we could switch on and off the washing machine, or start the teleheating or things like that. But this would not mean full automation. And then of course there's this break-even point between whether this equipment costs so much in order to install so that we can do it. So I think it's very important for companies to try and see, to focus a bit more on the consumer side also. Because maybe each one doesn't have individual power, but groups of people can lead, in fact, to reductions. And this is, of course, very important in big cities like Rotterdam and other big cities. And this would solve a lot of problems if we could somehow model the behavior of consumers. Yeah.
Thank you, Andreas. I think at this point, I would like the panel for so far, and I would like to open it up to the audience, because it's a unique opportunity now to have this great panel of wonderful experts here to what is on your mind of the future energy landscape, and fire up your question if you have some. So the floor it's all yours. So you have this wonderful experts available. Any questions from your side? Bernd, there's a microphone. Maybe you can say, I know you of course, but who you are and where you're from. So.
Sure. My name is Bernd Premnol. I represent the Norwegian Center of Expertise for Smart Energy Markets. And now we're working a lot with prosumer-oriented energy mechanisms. One thing, a general remark first, is that we like to think that prosumer-oriented activities have sort of derived from the energy business, and it's as a new concept. I'd like to share the fact that we've had prosumer-oriented markets in other domains for about 60 years, and there is a lot to learn from that. A key issue that I think was brought up here was the fact that we had to address different types of customers. I think Andreas just mentioned this now. The point is, what we've seen from the retail market in the Scandinavian area is that you have to differentiate your strategies. We're thinking about, I think we have a mentality that is very much commodity oriented. I think we're moving into an area, a time where you have to differentiate your strategies, and you can't think about a customer as like an abstract concept. You have to address the different needs of different regions and different type of ages, sex, things like that. That depends on what you're doing during the day and what you're doing with your life and what preferences you have for energy needs. And I think this is an essential thing in order to revamp the whole business strategy for the smart grid-oriented market. I'd like the panel to comment on that.
Yeah, I fully agree. That's something we also see. So we're all, as coming out of this more commodity type of industry, we are now also, learn something as an energy company. And we are developing a vision as what we call the smart customer, because we see that the customer is getting smarter and smarter. And what we think is that a smart customer has all information, technology, etc. available to become a prosumer, but also wants to have the freedom to choose what they want to optimize. So there will also be an optimization of cost, the optimization of comfort, and the optimization of sustainability needs. And also you talked about differentiation of strategies, and I think even as we now work mainly in the marketing with groups of people segments, we even think in the future that is not possible anymore, because the smarter the customer gets, it's more like in what context he is, which the need is to most optimize, and that can differ over time. Because flexibility and change is more and more part of our lives nowadays. So in the future, these customers will all the time be looking for what in that context at that moment the person is. He wants to optimize on cost, comfort, or sustainability. And also, I think this smart customer wants to have the freedom. Do I want to actively interact with the energy system, or maybe I don't want to, because I have a lot of things I have to look solutions for in my day-to-day life. I have some goals in my household, like having my clothes cleaned, washed at a certain time. So maybe I choose at one moment just for the easy way, and at other moments customers can choose to be more actively involved. So that's our vision on this, totally different kind of customer in the future.
Thank you, Bogi, and Eric.
I would like to also react on that. Siemens normally we are a business-to-business customer and not directly business-to-consumer. So for us, there ideally is always like a layer in between. But we see also something happening there. Maybe two remarks here. I think in general I agree, but what's very interesting to see is this customer preferences and need is very, very different per country and per culture. Look, and we had the smart meter roll out in the United States, where they have actually the meter is next to the front door, where you can actually from the outside you can do the meter reading. As the rollout in the Netherlands came up, that like privacy was like a huge topic that in the end came up that the regulator said, no, smart meter, the customer should always have the possibility to make it dumb again, because we're feeling very important. But these are the same people that put all their profiles on Facebook and so that everyone can see. So it's something also there. Culture is a very broad, subjective thing. Secondly, and what is also what I see in a huge scale, that macroeconomic, it's not more like you have like a company, a contractor, and a customer. And there you have to look more like to partnerships and maybe work into collectives to create the customer, because the customers sometimes like collective. I think that's also going to happen on individual scale. When you're a household, one prosumer is owner of your household, so is one prosumer. But I think there's a lot of power in making, let's say, collectives of consumers, like people own a house, vereniging van eigenaren, like concepts. Because there is maybe something to win. And I had a friend of mine, he's like a very early adapter in this field. He also had solar panels on his house. And he came to do that like, okay, normally you cannot connect it. You can only get money from your for your DSO up to a certain amount, because the rest is taxed. So what else to do? Maybe to sell it to somebody else. So he had a line connection with his neighbor. So they actually started their own mini collective with two prosumers. He even had out of storage. He found out this is actually brilliant. Like all the batteries we use for cars, they're normally, if they're below 9 volts, you throw them away because they don't work anymore to start your car. But still, a battery with 9 volt of power is still very useful to store energy. So we actually made a connected 20-second second-hand car batteries, which also now together they have also storage implemented. So this is a bit like nerdy behavior to call it, but I think if like the current distribution operators or transmission operators, like say the traditional customers in key, are not fast enough, people are going to create collectives. And they become their own, their own customers. And that's also for us as Siemens now. Traditionally, we focus on E.ON. If they come, they need the power plants, and they say what they want, and we build it for them. I think in the future it doesn't work like that anymore. It will be like a collective of customers and producers that create their own market to fill the gap, and also. This will work on macro scale, but also on micro scale. So.
Thank you. Maybe some more questions. Alok.
My name is Alok Gupta. I'm from University of Minnesota. In general, when we think about technologies and centralization or decentralization, the core problem occurs that if you have centralized technologies, you need some kind of decentralized distribution system. On the other hand, if you have decentralized technology, let's say for production, you need some centralized coordination mechanism. So as we think about prosumers, do your companies or are your companies thinking about playing an active role in sort of in line of Eric's comments about playing a coordination role? Because that I think might become quite important. I would like to sort of hear your thoughts about that.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, okay. So I don't want to be the one talking too much, but actually a very good question, because we see now a gap, and for us as Siemens, we are traditionally a player in the field of grids, of networks. Again, traditionally delivering to network operators, but now you see exactly this gap is there, and so examples that there is the traditional network operator doesn't want to step into that gap. So you get like more microgrids with private grid operators, where it can be like such kind of a collective. But also people come towards us, of course. Maybe you as Siemens, you can maybe step into that, and maybe we should. It depends on like economy of scale. We as a business-to-business company, okay, if it's like too a small, it will probably not be feasible. But as we also do now more in other things like power plants, we're not only traditionally the builder, but we also do it with like public-private partnerships, that we not only build it, also operate, own, and maintain it, this will be maybe also the model for the grid of the future. And that's also something we can step in, and that's also to making this transition one step further, because in the end it also creates business for us. Maybe we should. So it's very fair questions. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
I agree very much, and then additional facet is also the regulatory side. I mean, the grid operator, distribution grid operator, has the connection naturally to the customer. Could get relatively easily also the data, but is currently in many countries just not allowed to step into that role of providing services and optimizing the customer or a customer group. So it's also a matter of, for the policy makers. What role does the grid operator have? Is it an issue for the suppliers, for the grid operator, creating an unbundled world, but still very, very efficient? So also the rules of the game are not quite clear yet in this regard.
Thank you, Markus. Another question? Yeah, please.
Yeah, my name is Rainer Unnan from the University of Duisburg-Essen. My question is going in the same direction than the other one. What I really don't understand right now is the role of companies like E.ON, because they may lose their role as producers if only 40% of the electricity, of future electricity, will be produced by large power plants, then you are out of the business. The same is the case if you have too many prosumers, and you as a broker are also no longer needed, because my belief is, as a computer scientist, that all this will be controlled in the future by software, like it is with a stock exchange market. But in order to get the most out of it, and that is going in the same direction, we have to consider that on the one hand, we have a lot of players, like now, for example, E.ON, who need companies which need to find a new business model. Not that much Siemens, they may also want to sell to consumers, that is understandable, but they are selling technology, so they have a market, but energy producers don't have. So we have a lot of big companies right now, which of course would like to earn some money in the future as well. They don't want to disappear from the market. And on the other hand, we have this problem that we need to establish a new grid and or a new, let me say, energy environment. And from my point of view, this means, from the macro level point of view, that we need to have a lot of small markets, because it doesn't make sense, as we learned already, to transmit, let me say, electricity from a solar panel in Bavaria to let me say, to Hamburg. That doesn't make any sense. So what does it mean? It means that you also need to control the number of solar panels or let me say wind energy you produce in a local area. We know, for example, right now with farming, that one business model is that farmers sell only products in their neighborhood. And that needs to be probably the idea for the production of energy in the future as well, so that we don't need these big grids any longer. Maybe if we control it locally, then we don't need these big grids in the future any longer. But that on the other hand also means that all those companies which may have in mind to earn money with it will be much more careful. So the question now is a little bit, on the one hand we have this maybe decentralized environment, as you said already. On the other hand, we need some kind of global control in order to get the most of it. And the question is, who can take the role of this global control? I don't trust in politics, but so who could it be?
Thank you, Rainer. Markus.
Well, there were many aspects. First of all, I think you go a bit to the extreme. Large investors. I mean, I agree. The old business model, the traditional business models, get under pressure. I mean, everybody everybody knows, and everybody's reacting to that. But it's kind of an evolution. The targets in renewables, for instance, the Netherlands, they want to produce 14%. So in 8 years, Netherlands want to produce 14% from renewable sources. That means 86% come from other sources. So it still needs some kind of electricity sources apart from solar and wind and other decentral things. So there is still a big market getting under pressure. But even in the new world, whenever it is fully there, look at Germany, but also the Netherlands, trusting that there will be many investments in offshore wind, for instance. These are huge investments, and they come with a certain distance to the consumer. So it needs large investors, it needs a transmission grid, this regional supply. It is a very attractive image, but a bit romantic. This is no offense. Yeah, I like it as an image, but I don't think that it works. Look at the port of Rotterdam. One of the Lebensadern, you would say in German, for Western Europe, where the Netherlands, Germany, many countries receive a large part of their supply from. An important industry here, the port. I assume in a situation where it's impossible to source and to produce all the power that's necessary to run it locally only or regionally. So you still need that transportation, not only as a backup for the others, just in the case the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, but also to supply the large consumers. And insofar, to come to your final question, who can run this? I think it's in good hands if it's run by private companies under a regulatory framework. Policymakers, regulators have to take a look at it, as is done today, in fact. Shape reliable circumstances. I mentioned it, rules of the game. That's crucial for investors. And give then, within this framework, the freedom for entrepreneurs to actually step in and invest. And these entrepreneurs are then large companies, but also retail customers. And they are participants in the markets, in investment and in operating more or less collectively the energy market.
Thank you, Markus. Maybe we're coming to an end, but maybe one last question, if something comes to mind. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Ritesh. When I'm listening to it, I'm talking from perspective of an end consumer, or you can say prosumer, where I'm also looking at how, when I hear you, all different companies, you're still talking about what exploitation of the end consumer, or how we can earn revenue out of the end consumer. But I mean, thinking of how you companies can work together in a partnership. I mean, drawing a conclusion from the way, for example, the mobile industry or the cell phone industry, smartphone industry, where one makes a device, someone makes a platform, and the others are making applications, and end consumer decides what they want, and they use it, and the entire system is geared towards the end consumer. So can't it be, of course, the government, it's a different industry because it's less regulated and less control, and policymakers are involved. Can't you guys work together to form solutions under, the regulatory framework, or in fact influence the regulators to design solutions which is geared towards the end consumer? Why is it so difficult? Especially the world is moving towards it.
Thank you.
Where everyone can earn revenue out of it.
Okay, that's a challenging question for the end.
I think you can answer this, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, fair point, because that's at the moment. For instance, yesterday I was at a meeting where there was the network operation Leander, and they were also when you hear what their plans are, they're just moving into this direction. And as an energy supply company, we are looking like, oh, they are doing commercial business with money of public money. So in the whole energy business, we have at this moment hard times to find this cooperation and working together, even between the DSOs and the energy suppliers. And personally, I think it's time to start working together and to create this idea of hardware and platform, etc. And then I think for us as a company, there's a role to play in this platform. That's where I see a role for Ascent.
Well, in that context, you could say that, like the discussion we had in the morning with respect to Cassandra, would provide consumers with the power to deal with these needs. I mean, like, why not see it the other way around? Why not ask consumers to get a coalition or form groups and then start pushing towards an integration of infrastructure and services between all these major market leaders? Because usually, since the grid is moving to a different era, maybe there's a chance for all of the consumers to work towards that direction. So I think it would be the other way around. Have consumers form groups and start asking or pressuring for putting pressure for people to work in that direction.
Eric?
Yeah, I also want to make a remark to that because it's a good question, but part of the answer is we do realize this and we are already doing this. For instance, an example that also Boukje mentioned in the beginning, there's something like the Smart Energy Collective, where Ascent is participating in, also Siemens is participating in that, because there we want with companies together exactly do that, what you requesting from us. Again, also looking at this energy transition, there is so much going to happen that no company or no stakeholder can do this alone. I also have to admit, like Siemens, a big, huge traditional company, we come from a past where we think we want to do everything turnkey. Want to do it ourselves, also set the standards. That time is over. Nobody can do this anymore. You have to work together. You have to work in partnerships and look at open standards, or otherwise set the standards together. So that's also what what we're facing. So this is actually it is going to happen because the market is changing, and this is the only way to act, because the traditional customer and contractor role is that's the old way of doing business. So
Thanks, Eric. John?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, and you can go back and look at the computer industry from the 1970s on and see some of these same questions where originally it was the IBM security blanket, it was digital equipment and their competitors wanting to sell you turnkey solutions, and you couldn't run his software on her machine. And maybe what we need is a Steve Jobs, a Bill Gates. The time is now for this to happen. The market, the ideas, the opportunities are wide open. We don't know who that's going to be. Maybe it's you. But we'll know it when we see it. These kinds of innovations are generally not produced by sort of standards bodies and academics, although Google certainly came out of academia. But somebody will have an idea, it'll be the right idea, it'll catch on, and then we'll know what it is.
Wonderful. So with this one, we coming to a closing of the panel. Maybe just a very quick remark from the industry representative here. Maybe what are you seeing your advice for our newest future energy business center for Erasmus? For the coming year, but also the next year. So maybe start with Boukje and then we're going down here.
Okay.
From the industry, I'm from academia, so.
Well, advice for, I think the last point on cooperation, working together on open standards, and make it possible to get all the stakeholders in the right direction and to work together.
Wonderful, thank you. Peter?
I'm not an industry representative, but I think in that regard we should remember where a lot of the computer industry got its standards. It got ARPANET, TCP/IP, where would we be without that? That was a project that was just intended to solve a small problem for the military originally.
I think some of the projects that have been explained this morning are very useful, and especially now I think from Europe you can learn a lot of the developments in the United States, and maybe the other way around also, and we should go ahead in that direction.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, also from my side, I was actually this morning quite also surprised to see what kind of initiatives and the simulation and your gaming examples. Normally talk about the golden triangle. It's government, industry, and university to do it together. And I think also here, seeing this, that you do a lot of good things from your viewpoint. Our viewpoint from industry also a bit more, let's say, you have the luxury to dream a bit, to be more optimistic. We can also keep each other sharp. Let's say, well, yes, good example, it doesn't go that fast because also you have like traditional infrastructure that also has to move at the same speed. So I think there we can really learn from each other.
Okay,
and
wonderful.
that's a very good initiative.
Thank you, Eric. Marcus?
As well, as already said, connect to policymakers, to customers, to engineering companies or institutes, open standards, transparency, and put at the end the customer value in the center of things. At the end, the customer, I don't think, it will only be interested in reducing its energy bill, but this is only one of the facets. Another one is just the comfort of living and a certain convenience and transparency over what's happening in the energy market and the impact of changes in the customer behavior.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Let's give it up for our panel. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the morning and also the panel discussion. I enjoyed it very much, and I have a small token of appreciation, and it's actually, as I've been told, a universal charger. So if you haven't been charged enough this morning, you can take this along and can anytime recharge, you know. So this is just a small token of appreciation. Things left, just some closing remarks, and then it's always a very difficult position to stand here between you and lunch. So I try to keep it very short, so that you have time to enjoy a nice lunch and also to talk to each other, to think about the future of energy, to shaping the energy landscape, and think what we can do together. I see some representative here from the RSM alumni group, or affinity group it's called, and it's also alumni energy. So I'm looking forward to that. We have our first initiative at the summit, the business summit on 5th of October, where we'll kick off the energy affinity group. I'm looking very much forward to that. That's just one of the initiatives, but we also, like I said this morning, we have the LinkedIn group where you can cooperate. We have our meetings so far every Monday morning from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, and then Thursdays also at 11 o'clock. So I invite you all, come, participate, give your input, and Bauke and many other people mentioned pilot projects. I think that's also a win-win situation, where we can collaborate together, where we can build the customer models of the future, brokerage models, and do some cross-fertilization between what we academics think, then maybe implement it in a pilot, what the real people think, right, what the business managers think, and then feedback, and then also give some feedback to the policymakers. And I think that can be really a big sandbox and a great cooperation. I'm looking forward to that. So please feel free to contact me anytime. So just because we are moving on, right? So we are thinking a little bit about next year already, so we just this year, but also next year. And so I was thinking, what can we do to really also hook in the business landscape more and also reward, thinking going ahead. And so we decided to give a new award, and we call it the Erasmus. And Theo and I, we are sitting together thinking, how could we call this? And Theo said, let's call it the Erasmus, right? And I think that's a very nice name. It's like something is stolen from the Oscar, but then we'll give the Erasmus for energy management, for an innovative business. And we are working on some project proposal. We'll be sending out this early fall in September, and then you will not be much, just a couple of pages, but then we invite businesses to apply to this award, and then our advisory board members and selected jury will look at this, and then next year we will announce the first Erasmus Energy business winner. So it's going to be very exciting. And so when will it be? We're going to continue reinventing the energy landscape, and that's going to be happening most likely towards the end of May. We haven't finalized the day yet because we just want to make sure that we're not colliding with other events and that we can have many other stakeholders at the table. So, but we will announce that very shortly. So it will be towards end of May, beginning of June next year. And we are looking very much forward to that. And also we are from the academic side, we are working together with colleagues from the US to put up what we call a new workshop on energy information systems. So that will be more the academic outlet of that forum, where we invite academics and scientific researchers around the world to participate, to send in papers to discuss the future energy landscape from more like a scientific point. And then we will also have selected speakers next year at the forum, and we're planning to have one large plenary discussion as we have now, but also 2 or 3 breakout workout sessions where we focus on specific parts of the energy business. So I can imagine focusing one part on the prosumer of the future energy customer. I can imagine a breakout session on electric vehicles, a very dominant topic right now, on how to use this for grid balancing. I can imagine a session on a tariff pricing and revenue and policy regulations around this. So we are thinking about these kind of breakout sessions and also plenary sessions, and so much exciting things going on, and you will be keeping informed, and I encourage you to sign up also to our LinkedIn group, then you will always stay in touch, and please come back. And now we have the lunch, and we have also the posters, a lot of researchers and also our PhD students put up posters. They will be very eager to talk to you about their projects and what's going on. They will be also very eager to get your input on what's going on. How do you see that? Because when I was always talking to the business people, then I always take a lot away from this, and how to steer the research. And I think that's, Bauke mentioned it also before, I think that's how we can collaborate. I think it's really this cross-fertilization between academia and business, but also taking the policy maker into account. So with that one, I thank you all very much for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's discussions, and let's continue discussions over lunch and over the next year and keep on doing good things. Thank you very much for coming.